Hey, what's going on everyone? This is yours truly back with another video, and today we're gonna be showing off all the new items and the change items coming into version 0.18, because it isn't enough that we're gonna be getting a new 6 item system with 6 items. You can buy a 7th slot for your quest actives, a bunch of new items. We also gain rework items as well. For example, two items like Mind Racers, the favorite notorious, well-known item, now completely changed to where no longer have the mana stacking component, and now it's just a straight up only a cleave item, and that's going to have huge implication for different builds. What's going to be going into version 0.18. So how I'm going to do this is that in the second section that I timestamp in this video, I'm just going to shut up, mute my camera and mic, and just show off all the items individually one by one. And so if you're just more so curious about all the new items and want to take your time just kind of pausing the video and look at all the changes, definitely feel free to use the following section to do that, because I'm going to assume that when we get to the third section of the video that you guys have a good idea of all the new changes and new items, and then we can just go dive deep into what it means for theory crafting and how it's gonna shake up the meta. So I'm just gonna transition to the next segment right here for you guys. So now that you guys got a glimpse at all the new items and change items in version 0.18, we can now finally dive into, I think, what's going to be the most significant, the most spicy items be on the lookout for right here. So I'm going to first start with the assassin section right here. There's going to be 2 new assassin items coming into this patch. One is Tainted Triton and one is Penumbra, and I think Penumbra is shaping up to be one of the most hardest, spiciest kind of items coming into play, because this is the item that gives you a lot of really good viable stats, but the passive is one thing that makes it super interesting, and that is on takedown you reduce your non-ultimate cooldowns by 4 seconds, and that is a huge fat cooldown reduction right there, because for a lot of basic abilities in this game, you can pretty much just immediately use this again. A lot of basic abilities are about 4-ish seconds, especially when it's on the ability haste. So that just means that you get to fight off a second basic ability straight after, and then for like very long abilities like a fame out dash, that's gonna be, you're gonna really feel the difference when you get the takedown on this item right here. And what I think is really interesting about this item too is that for whatever dang reason, this item comes with 200 health. This is the assassin item all about getting multi-kills, and you tell me that this item comes with 200 health on top of it? Like, this item is very stat inflated heavy. So much to the point that not just assassins like Fame Malkalai can use this item pretty dang well. I think some boosters can use this item very well too. And I think the most notable one is actually being Sailors, which I actually show off some broad gameplay, or we're gonna be too. I'm not sure when I'm gonna show that broad game I have with him, but I did a broad game Sailors with Penumbra, and this item goes super hard on him. Like, all the stats are actually really great on him. And then when I'm killing people with my spear, I get this passive proc. I get to immediately use my spear again, and that's a huge cooldown reduction on my E and Q as well, so I can also dash pretty quickly again afterwards. As an example, like, this item, it's gonna be pretty nasty on some heroes that are like very more snowball reliant, or well, the kind of heroes that once you get the mid to late game, you're all about like 100 seeing people. This item is just a win harder kind of item. Like given like this one item, you have to get a kill to proc it, right? But if you're playing like an assassin, a high pussy character, even if you're kind of like so in the game, once you get to 4 or 5 items, you're definitely going to be able to start the one shot like squishy targets like ADCs anyway. So like when you go for that, you get that kill and you get this cooldown reduction. That's going to enable you to still do a lot of stuff in those team fights. For the second new item, this is going to be the Assassin's new anti-healing option. Well, it's going to reduce the healing when you do physical damage to them. But the new passive product that's going to be pretty interesting to play around with is this dealing additional damage based on your penetration stat. It's gonna be a little bit hard to like evaluate this just because there's just bonus damage on like kind of like an anti-heal item, but I think the stats just gives you the physical power, penetration, and ability haste are all very viable. So if anything, this item is the very good stat stick that you can just slot into most builds, and if the enemy team has healing, that just makes it even better. So I think this item is going to be just very interesting, very potent on these heavy assassin builds, bringing all this physical penetration. So now, like, some of the item changes that I think is most significant, we definitely have to talk about Mind Razor, because Mind Razor used to be the most notorious item and on live, because not only it gives you this insanely powerful clear, it also gives you a mana stacking component that builds into bonus physical power as well. This item literally does it all. So this like literally the item that makes Fame Mao like a champion. Like, Fame Mao is a very powerful assassin because he works so dang good with Mind Razor. And then for Twin Blast, he has a very Cringe Blast build that literally is works just because its item exists. Well, this item still exists, but now it's just half of its original strength because it no longer has that stacking mana component. That's actually going to be now slapped onto Resolution right here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means for ADC builds. But for what this means is that if you want to still commit to the Mind Razor play style that you're used to on live, now you have to commit a bit harder on it, because now when you buy Mind Razor, you buy it just for the cleave item alone. And if you want the stacking mana component, well, now you got to dip also into Resolution. Granted, you can probably sit on the potent font and kind of leave it like that, but still, that's like 2 items combining instead of just having it all in one item. Luckily, we have an extra iron slot with 6 items, so this change won't be nearly as bad as it is with the 5 item system, but still, like, you are missing out on that 1 item slot just because you now have to commit to both Mind Razor and the Resolution to get the 2 like powerful passive effects right there. Now, thing to note I want to make is Nightfall got reworked, so now that I still like a sustained option with lifesteal and doing healing based on ability damage, but now when you get a takedown, you gain a shield. So when you think about assassins getting multi-kills, well, now they have a shield, you're gonna keep stacking, and that's gonna be pretty problematic for people that's gonna have a hard time busting them down. I don't think it's nearly as powerful as the number effect with the reduced cooldown 4 seconds, but it's still pretty dang strong if you want more of a survival option for assassins while still being that physical penetration stat that you definitely want. We also gotta talk about I'm gonna talk about Omen first because Omen used to be like the to-go item on Fame Mount, but now I think this item is pretty good. It's to the point that I don't think you actually want to build this Fame Mount nearly as much because I tried this item on Fame Mount and Brawl, and this does not feel that great because now instead of a flat cooldown reduction, it's now like based on percent. And what that means is that when you do it based on percent, let's say you have a Fame out E that's 4-second cooldown on it. If you only used to do like I think it was it 1.5 seconds, I can't remember the top of my head, but it's a 1.5 second reduction, and that still feels very strong on the 4-second cooldown. But if you're talking about a 20%, that gets to like less than 1 second actual reduction on your Fame E. And this just makes this doesn't feel that great because you're only gonna see good returns on this Omen item on long cooldowns like a Fame Out on BY. So maybe there's some niche cases where you can still use it for that reason. But what makes Omen really strong is the fact that you can use your E back to back twice in a row with it. But now you can't do that. Like Omen doesn't do that anymore, and I feel like this item really falling off a cliff as a result. We're definitely gonna have to talk about Envy too because Envy still has the same effect where you critical strike based on dashing, leaping, wasting camo. But now there's a second part of it where it's called Hush, and when you use a sacrificial strike on the heal, you silence it for 1.25 seconds. And this item has a lot of implications we can do with it. And what I mean by that is assassins are usually not a class that have a lot of utility. They're more based on mobility and high burst damage. But now all of a sudden, if I want to play a Fame Out Kalari and stick it onto them, not only am I having a high mobility, high burst damage, now when I jump onto someone and hit them with a basic attack, well, all of a sudden, they're going to be silenced for 1.25 seconds. Because, like, imagine, like, if Collide just jumps on the Sparrow, Sparrow's going to immediately blink away. That's what you want to do. But if Collide jumps on the Sparrow, procs his Envy, well, now that Sparrow can blink away for 1.25 seconds, and that's more enough time for that Collide to do the full combo and kill that Sparrow. But not even just on ADCs. Like, imagine you have going against a Steel, and Steel just very problematic, just him just immediately going on you, using his abilities on you. You just can't play the team fights. Well, now if you use Envy and Silence the Steel, now you can play the team fight out for like 1.25 seconds without the Steel just immediately ulting you, and that can probably make the big difference about you finding your key targets. Like I think out all the like these different like subclasses of items, I think Assassin's got some of the new spiciest items for both new items but also rework items right here, because there's still like some other changes like Infernum doing bonus damage based on bonus armor, just giving you movement speed when you hit a shield target. Like those are like interesting cool changes, but like these items that I spend in lane target mount, these items are like really gonna be shaping up the assassin builds, and I'm actually pretty excited to try out some Fame Mount or even like sales kind of builds with some of these assassin changes right here. So next up, we definitely have to talk about Fighter, and the first one I'm going to talk about is Judgment. This is like the new quest active, and you're wondering, where's Phoenix? Well, Phoenix is no longer going to be in the game anymore in version 0.18, which is actually great because a lot of people definitely complain a lot about Phoenix. It's not fun to play against someone that has Phoenix. Like there's some cool outplay moments you can do with the Phoenix, but at the same time, it's just really dang annoying. This item just exists, and it sometimes causes some problems time to time, right? Well, now Phoenix no longer exists, thank God. So now we have Judgment in its place, and Judgment is acting like a good sustain option. So if Ice Clone Talent is about that movement speed, increased physical power, Blue Lock is about that cleanse item, Judgment is also going to be that sustain option that's going to fit very well for more like Juggernaut or kind of more boostery tankier builds for example for Grux, because Ice One Talent is like very good on Grux for the movement speed, but if you want more like pure survivability on like Grux but still want to build like the Warrior's Quest for the stats it gives you, you definitely want to pick up Judgment because the Army Fan works incredibly well with you. When you use the active on this, you're going to get like a deal damage around you and heal based on that. And it sounds kind of like very plain on paper, but when you look at the cooldown on it, and it gets down as low as 10 seconds. And that's actually pretty nutty because a lot of the quest options obviously on longer cooldown, like 45 seconds, 150 seconds. This one is like 10 seconds, so you can probably practice 2 or 3 times in the fight easily, so long as you don't get busted down immediately. So this is a active item that you can use it pretty active in team fights, and that's actually very a great fit for like a more bruiser kind of build where you're all about staying alive in team fights for a long time while you want to fight people a lot. So what better way to pair that with a active quest that can like let you get aggressive a lot of the times. And like this active is actually pretty strong. Like I tried it on some builds like a crunch, not crunch and Sailors, and this is actually pretty the damage it deals is actually pretty significant, right? So like if you want to build a more boostery build that's all about doing more burst damage, like Sailors doing his full combo, well now you have Judgment on par as your burst damage and helping you secure that damage even more so. Like this item is actually pretty dang interesting, and I think it's gonna get picked up a lot on some of these different boosted builds. So let's first talk about like the new. Let's also talk about some of the other fighter items that are new, and let's first talk about Gaia Greaves, which doesn't seem like a bruiser item on paper because it gives you the health, physical armor, ability to hit tenacity. It doesn't really give you physical power. But then you look at the passive it gives you. Well, you gain bonus movement speed. When you have 100 stacks, okay, that sounds pretty interesting on heroes like Grux or Sailors. But when you base attack, you expend all that for bonus damage, and that damage is based on your physical power right there. So that's actually pretty dang interesting because this item is a good like source of a little bit burst damage on that first basic attack. It gives you that bonus movement speed so you can kind of engage on people a bit faster. Like Sailors like sometimes getting a little bit hard to get on top of people in Witch's ultimate, but now if you pair this with him, you can one at people a bit faster, and that move speed will make a big difference by the ways. It's just like a good all-in-one item. Like booster builds sometimes lack some of the more survivability components. Like literally Mutilator, like doesn't really give you that wall survivability stats, but it's still like a powerful item on some heroes. Well, now you can pair that with something like Gaia Greaves. Well, the stats it gives you the more pure survivability, but the active like the passive component of it would still give you like that more boostery kind of play style. So I think this item is gonna be like a really popular item that's gonna be going forward for more like the heroes that need that bonus movement speed to get to people faster, or just wants a little bit more damage behind the basic attacks as well. And then new item is Earthshaker that gives you physical power, attack speed, and health. So interesting enough, like there wasn't really any booster items that can give you attack speed except for Bone Seeker. But Bone Seeker is another item that unfortunately does not exist. And so like I'm happy about Phoenix going away, but I'm not on board as much about Bone Seeker going away because that item was pretty interesting, although I think it was pretty niche. Like I really think only 1 or 2 heroes can maybe take advantage of it. So I think the item, because it was just too niche, had to get gutted because no one's just buying that item. So it kind of makes sense that they kind of remove that item for now and instead make a new item that gives you attack speed in its place and gives you a different bonus passive right here, which is when you deal damage to heroes and monsters, you increase your ability damage stacking up to 15 times. So this item is actually going to be super powerful on any bruiser character that's about like base attacking a lot but also doing a lot of ability damage. So like the person that comes to mind is of course Crunch. Like I think it's going to be a core item on Crunch because you're going to pair Augmentation and Earthshaker. You get like health, ability, haste, you can summon attack speed, which is a little bit nice if you want to get your passive off faster, but more importantly, it's just the fact that you can stack this up pretty dang fast on certain characters. So you stack up this 15 times, you have 15% increased ability damage, and that adds up a lot on characters like Crunch. Right, so maybe on Grux not nearly as good, but you can maybe still build it on Grux because the attack speed is also pretty dang good on him. So like this item has a lot of potential that it's gonna be even more so than the Bone Seeker that we are familiar with. So I think the Bone Seeker remover was kind of needed a little bit. Just let it kind of go back in the oven, maybe get a different kind of active component to it. And for now, we got Earthshaker in its place, and Earthshaker is turned out to be a much better item, in my opinion. Next item is going to be Myth Metal Buckler. This is going to be, so like, another item that also got removed is Satanic Mallet, which, again, like that item was actually really popular. I think the reason why it got removed, like my kind of opinion on it, because I don't think they ever told us just yet. The reason I think it got removed is because that item was a little bit too good in the sense that like it gives you so many good wall stats to the point that it makes them for really real unbalanced situations. Well, you build Tutorial Mallet for the purpose of building like that like magical, what you call, you're building it for the magical armor component, but most of the time you build Tutorial Mallet just for the bonus wall power you get from them. So like, so I think that's one reason why that got removed, and now we're gonna get more of an actual anti-magical item in this place in the form of Mist Metal Buckler. You still have magical armor, physical power. You got Army Fam now on this, so that's pretty interesting already. But what's interesting is how this whole item passive will work, where you gain 100 charges, and while 100 charges you gain bonus magical armor. When you take magical damage, you consume Mist Water Guard charges, block 1 damage for each charge consumed. So essentially what this item is that we all know like a Gideon Q late game is just gonna have HP like a squishy target, right? But that's kind of what this item does really good, is that for that 1 or 2 instance of magical damage that you're gonna be dealt, you're gonna really severely reduce it a whole lot because you have all this magical armor you have and the unblocking damage instance as well. If you're in a maybe long drawn out fight where you're taking constant magical damage, this item kind of falls off, but I think that's the purpose of it. That gives you like a very bulky upfront magical resistance, but then like if you want like a more actual better magical defense option, you probably have to go for something like a crystalline option. So other than that, there's some items we can quickly talk about that. I think it's pretty interesting how they change it up. Firstly, augmentation. It no longer has the movement speed when you use your ultimate. Now it's just a pure static for what it gives you. And the skin is a bit different. I don't know like this like bonus physical power or like total physical power, because like some items will have different scalings based on that. But either way, this item scaling is different on it, and I think it's actually a lot more potent in the early game. Like, I think this is an item that's always been a good first item on a lot of boosters, but now I think it gets even better because I think the scaling makes it a lot better early game item, and that means that you're gonna get a lot larger early game power spike as a result. So this item you definitely still want to build on the light heroes like Crunch, of course, and also Sailors as well. Trying to see what other items we can kind of sort of talk about. I think all the other booster items are a little bit about the same. Like Bone Saw, it's very interesting now that it has 20% tenacity, so this makes it a very good bulky item that enables like basic attack builds. But other than that, nothing like too crazy changed from what I can tell. Just quickly glancing over on all these items right here. So let's move on over to tanks. And the one new item that's actually pretty dang interesting that we're going to talk about is the Fist of Wasu, or I like to call it the Fist of Jazz, because that just comes off the tongue a bit easier, less syllable, is easier to say, plus more iconic. So I'm going to call it the Fist of Jazz, but feel free to call it the Fist of Wasu instead if you want. But like this item is a physical armor item, so another great option for tanks, but the iron passive is what makes this interesting, because now when you have 5 stacks, you empower your next basic attack to do bonus damage based on your total health, and it's increased 2 times on heroes, and you heal for 50% of the bonus damage dealt. It's actually really dang interesting, because this is the item that will scale as the game goes on, because as long as you're building health, you're going to keep doing bonus damage on this passive component, and when you do more damage, you also heal more. So this item can make some tanks specifically like more tankier, because if you gain like multiple of these procs off, you're gonna be keep healing over and over and over, and that can make a big difference if you survive or not in those encounters. So this item, I think, is gonna be a great pickup option on tanks going forward, but it's also gonna be a great option for maybe some of the more bruiser builds. So like if I want to build a crunch force step up a little bit more tankier, I can slot this in as kind of like a forced item, so I can build this for more the health and the physical armor I want to get. And then whenever I'm like punching people with crunch, I proc this, I do bonus damage on my basic attack and heal, which are like very great characteristics stats that a booster will want anyway. So I think there's going to be a lot of duality between tanks and boosters that want to build this item right here. other than that, that's like the only technically new tank item that's gonna be offered right here. Everything else is it's slightly just tuned a little bit. Like for example, Elder Frost no longer gives you the bonus mana refund when you hit people. Instead, it has to apply base mana regen, which makes this item a bit more consistent for giving you mana sustain, and I think that's pretty damn important for like build options because now if it's just stuck just fighting around faces to old prime, not as reliant on like proccing this to have your mana back. Now it's just like you slap this on, you have increased base mana regen. This makes it better, more consistent overall for mana sustain, and still have that powerful boss blade effect you can slot in on some of these tanks or boosted builds. Yeah, I'm trying to take just a quick look. I think Warden's Fate is another interesting change. Well, I can't remember if this is like the new or old because that's just I don't know if you guys realize, but there's just so many dang changes in this patch notes that I even sometimes forget what's exactly is being changed or not. So I can't remember exactly. Maybe this is already on live, but I could be wrong right here. I just want to just show this here, and then I'm just gonna look back later if I actually got this right or not. Yeah, I think that's gonna be about for the tank items right here, because all about the same. Now let's move on to supports, and supports has a bit more toys to play around with compared to tanks. And first up, Dawn Star is gonna be a very new, interesting item, because what it does is when you base attack kills, you reduce the damage dealt by 2% for 3 seconds, sacrifice time. So this is like one of those few items in the game where like you can actually reduce the damage someone will do by just attacking it with basic attacks. So for the lot more aggressive like basic attackers like a steel for example, like this item can actually be pretty good if you want to focus one target, reduce their damage dealt, so that you're helping your team survive a bit better when they have to worry about as much damage that opponent's gonna be doing. What's also very interesting is that when you immobilize heals, you gain increased attack speed, right? So one thing that I'm going to be cooking up on Grux is that I want to try Dawn Star on Grux because even though it's being labeled as a support item, all these stats are actually really good on Grux. And Grux really wants attack speed at the end of the day. So you have a defensive item that gives you attack speed, and Grux have 3 abilities that will immobilize heroes to practice consistently. And when you're fighting someone 1v1, well, all of a sudden you're gonna be able to reduce their damage they're doing to you. So that's kind of like a win-win. I feel like for some heroes like Grux, like I think it's definitely gonna be good on some supports, but I think funny enough, some heroes like Grux may actually pick up this item if they want an item that gives them attack speed and defensive stats, and then this whole reducing the damage is just icing on the cake. And then a new item is gonna be Ever Bloom. This is the item that's gonna give you, when you heal or shield a hero, you grant them damage mitigation and tenacity. So it's gonna be an item that's of course gonna be really strong on the support heroes like Narbash, Phase, Miriam, where you store a shield or heal them, and now you give them more tenacity so they can get CC for less longer, and you also give them damage mitigation. So this is actually a very good support item to keep your like allies like alive longer, because you always have items that can increase your healing and shielding, but not really an item that can give straight up like damage mitigation. Besides, I think like Tranquility as well. So if you stack like Tranquility and Everbloom, you're gonna stack damage mitigation. It's actually gonna be pretty dang important on ADC. So you can have some pretty nasty healing builds where you're gonna be healing a lot, but also give a lot of damage mitigation, and you're gonna make that one person that much harder to kill. And as a result, it's just gonna make the enemy's life that much harder to try to take out your key targets on your team. Another new item is gonna be another healing item. This one's a little bit different in how it does it though. So when you deal damage to heroes, you gain charges equal to the damage dealt. And then when you heal or shoot an ally hero, you consume all the charges to heal them for the additional amount. So this item is actually pretty dang interesting because what this means is that you want this encourage like the heroes like Phase, who are not really like the damage dealers, are still like get active in those team fights with the E's and Q's and basic attacks, because when you do that, you stack up the charges. If you get like a lot of charges off on your next healing, you're gonna give them a lot more like heal as a result. Now that I look at it, I think that item Wellspring doesn't exist anymore, because Wellspring is pretty much like the old Wellspring, but now it has like more condition to it right here. So that's actually pretty interesting. I didn't realize that Wellspring was also removed as well, from what I can tell. And last but not least, Predecessor is going to be another support item that when you cast an ability, empower your next basic attack. So like a kind of spellplay item, except when you deal this damage, you reduce non-ultimate cooldowns by 15%. So it's going to be very interesting on almost about most supports from what I can tell. Maybe not so much on the tanks, but we're talking about like the Mario, the Phase, even the Decker. When you can like empower your next basic attack, and then get the cooldown reduction by 50%. It's actually a pretty big deal on those kind of range supports. It's all about the utility, and so the faster you can spam the abilities, the better. So you get ability haste, and you get a flat percent amount reduced. So this item is actually going to be pretty dang interesting in supports. Maybe there's also something you can cook up on some like bruisery, like tanks or like offlane roles, because the stats on this are not bad. It didn't really give you defense however, so I think the item's gonna be a little bit hard to build on them, but who knows, maybe Crucella on Crunch could be a thing, because you're gonna be able to practice quite a lot on him. Alright, so that's kind of about it for the new support items, and I think I'm trying to find is there like any big notable changes to something, because I think support system really got a whole lot of like actual changes to like passive effects. I think this one's got changed because now it gives you like less damage taken from hero basic attacks, so it's a lot better like support tank option going against ADCs constantly, where you can reduce the base attack by fly amount with hex cost. So that's actually gonna be pretty dang interesting. This time is also gonna be interesting more too, because it's about the same Trusil base that we know, except now it has base mana regen. I believe that's new. Like I said, there's so many new items coming into this whole thing that I have to like have memorized both 2 item system on live and also fight here. So apologies if I get some of this wrong, but I don't think Trusil Bracelet has always have this base mana region, but correct me if I won for sure. Alright, next up is gonna be the mid lane, and there's definitely some spicy new mage items. Let's first talk about Soul Binder, because Soul Binder is gonna be the stacking component, but not the way you think it will be, because this stacking component is based on your damage healers from afar. And so when you do damage from afar, like a max range like Howitzer Q or Gideon Q, you will deal bonus damage and permanently gain 1 magical power. Which doesn't sound a lot, but if you get into a 35-minute game and you build this item first, you can probably see this easily stacking up to 30 times, and that's 30 bonus magical power on top of 75 magical power. This item is going to be a pretty crazy like stat efficient item, as long as you play one arcane salvo consistently. So I'm expecting this to be very popular on utility mage. Pokes mages like Gadget and Howitzer. It's all about poking from afar, and you can get that pretty consistently easy on them right here. Another new item is Noxia. This one is going to be a new anti-tank option, because before we only had Mega Cosm that does that, but now we have Noxia, where like if you hit a hero with 2 abilities at least, the first one mark them, the second one would deal Dark Matter, which is gonna deal maximum health as bonus damage. So this item is going to be really interesting on some mage builds. I need to kind of cook up a little bit how this is going to work, but essentially now you have the option besides Mega Cosm to build Noxia. So with these 2 items combined, if you're going to get like a super tanky team comp, I think pairing these 2 items together is actually going to work really dang good, because both of them will deal like max health as bonus damage. And so like This is actually gonna be really interesting because I think mages sometimes lack option to deal with tanks, and I think people complain about that a lot actually. But now, yeah, Mega Custom and Noxia you can both build, along with still other options that can give you magical penetration. So you can make a mage build. It's all about anti-tank, and you can make your abilities chunk them super hard. So that's kind of like the two new irons for mages, but mages also got some pretty spicy reworked as well. And we're gonna first talk about Over Enlightenment because the stats on this is quite different. Doesn't give you ability haste anymore. The stacking component doesn't give you ability haste or mana. It just only gives you magical power and health, which is a little bit, I guess you could say disappointing because some builds like my Countess Overgrowth, so code build won't really be a thing nearly as much, but this it's actually pretty dang good because now the stats are a lot more focused on just two, magical power and health, and that means that you can gain even more stacking health or magical powers or alive mid compared to alive. And what that means is that this item is going to be a lot more accessible on some bruisers, like for example, like Quan and the Wowo, where they don't really need the stacking mana ability haste as much. It's nice, but not as needed. Now they can build a lot of alignment as a more pure stat set for magical power and health. Like I think this item is ironically gonna be like even more better well suited for mage bruisers. Not It's still gonna be nice, I think, on some mages like Countess or maybe a tanky or Gideon build, but I think this item is just gonna be pick up more. Like this item was already popular enough, I feel like, but now it's just gonna get even more popular because of this shift they did right here. Speaking of an item that's going to get more popular, we gotta talk about Magnify, because now Magnify is going to be a lot more flexible item you can use, because this item used to be a little bit too niche, gives you attack speed, and the passive of it used to be a little bit too hard to proc on most heroes. But now you have ability haste Army Fam, and that's actually going to make it really valuable stats on like a bruisery like Quan. But now your bonus damage being dealt on your basic attack is going to be based on when moving or casting abilities. And when you proc this, you will shred the target's magical armor for 4 seconds. Like, this item is actually pretty dang nuts on Mage Bruiser. Like, you combine this with Overgrowth, like these two items alone are going to really open up Mage Bruiser builds up a lot more, because Mage Bruisers, or this Quan, only really likes tank items because the Mage Bruiser items in comparison were just kind of but now we have a lot more appealing Mage Brew items with these two alone. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more Quan booster builds while the full tank with these two items going forward. I'm just really excited to cook up with these two items on Quan. I actually tried Magnify on him and they actually felt really amazing. So definitely do not let this fly on the radar right here. Besides that, another like notable change was Caustica, because Caustica you used to build that item if you want to have constant mana regen, but now you don't really get that huge mana regen. You still have the mana regen on the stat right here, but now it's only good for anti-armor. Like, this item's a lot better as an anti-tank option, but now mages can't build it just for the mana regen because you only get 75% base mana regen instead of like the stronger base mana regen you get when you fall below a certain threshold. Besides that, Light Binder also got significant changes, because before you used to do this build on counters I mentioned earlier where you can have so much ability haste and power. Well, this one doesn't give you any health anymore, doesn't scale, and give you a bonus ability haste based on your bonus health, which I'm a little bit sad, but at the same time I'm fine with that, because I think it's ridiculous if you get 120 ability haste and spam your mobility option every 3 seconds because of the old Life Binder. So now new Life Binder doesn't have that anymore, and now it's a lot more central focus on like the sustain option, where for every 10% missing health you gain magical power and magical lifesteal. So I'm pretty dang happy what they did with the mage items on this patch, because not only the traditional mages like Geinhauser have new toys to play with, but now we have a lot more bruiser magical items that are going to empower Quan's builds to be a lot more on the bruiser side, because I'm only cooking up like something like an Overlife, Life Binder, Magnify. Like, these items all sound really dang good on Quan. And for any future magical bruisers, like I think even a Wowo maybe want to pick up some of these items here as well. So I'm pretty dang excited to try some of these items out in the offlane on those magical scaling characters. Last but not least, we're gonna talk about ADCs. There's some pretty new items on them. First, talk about Plasma Blade, which is definitely very interesting because not only is it dual um physical and magical item, it also gonna give you 40% critical strike chance when you fully stack this up. So there's a lot to break down right here. This is the item that's very stat driven, not really crazy item effects. But like this item is gonna open up for more do like scaling builds, and the only kill I think can use this item well is Grim, because Grim has full scaling both physical and magical, and he likes both of them actually. I know Race has some of that too, but I don't think he wants these kind of stat lines. Like he doesn't want critical strike chance. He's not really basic attacking hero. The only basic attacking hero we have that scales based on physical and magical is Grim, right? So although this item is pretty niche right now, this just means that in the future we will get more dual scaling heroes that can pick up this item. So it's not gonna just be Grim that I think is gonna be using this item like very regularly going for Ocean's Hero 0.18, but also future heroes as well. And then new item is gonna be Equinox, so it's kind of like very similar to the Nightfall Weaver for Assassins, but this is for like the ADCs as comparison. Well, you do bonus damage when you critical strike, and then when you go below 40% health, you gain a shield. So I do like this a lot because I know that a lot of ADCs will sometimes build like Draconum, Dread, or even Salvation as a last item as a sustain option because there's just no other better choice, right? But with Equinox, you can cover your sustain aspect and still get critical strike chance, because I failed to mention this a little bit earlier, but with the 6 item patch, it just means all the critical strike chance items got nerfed in the sense that like instead of 4 crit items you need to build, you need to build 5 of them now. So you definitely have a lot more crit items you need to build going forward. So you want to build 5 crit items, and the last item can be a flex. And because you're being 5 crit items, something like this can actually fit in pretty damn well, because you can go to for traditional crit items like Demolisher and Family and still sneak in Equinox as your sustain option and still gain you the 20% critical strike chance you need to get to 100%. The last new item for ADC is going to be Nuclear Rounds, which based on your critical strike chance, you increase your ability damage. So again, this item is going to look to be really dang good on a hero like Grim. I think it's also going to be good on certain heroes like Trimblast. Well, although Trimblast doesn't really want to build critical strike chance, maybe this could be the item gateway for him to build critical strike on hit builds, because his ability damage increase will really benefit TP's build a lot. Alright, so those are the new items. Let's quickly talk about some of the rework stuff, because there's some really spicy ones. Like for example, I mentioned earlier that for assassins, their mind razor no longer have the soul challenge component, and now it's slapped onto resolution. And what this means is that if you want a fame mount to get both the cleave from mind razor and the stacking mana component for he wants to build both mind razor and resolution. But at the same time, this just makes this item just overall a lot more popular for ADCs, especially more ADC builds are more about spamming abilities like Cough Twin Blast, right? Where you do successful basic attacks, you do a bonus on hit damage right here. So I think this item is actually still going to be good on Twin Blast. You're not going to have the Mind Razor cleave anymore unless you build that item specifically, but you can still build the Soul Child's attacking component on Twin Blast. For Waste though, it's going to be a little bit more challenging because these this kind of stuff doesn't really benefit you as much. Maybe it will for a late game build, because you don't have to build resolution right off the bat. You can just build a soul child, sit on this passive component right here, and then when you get to your last item, then you can build into this item passive right here. Team Spain was also changed because no longer it's like the Omnifam sustain option. Now it's like a on hit item. It was already an on hit item online, but now it's even more so with this new passive effect. Well, based on your total attack speed, you do increase damage per target. So this item is actually going to go pretty nuts on certain attack speed on hit builds like Sparrow. Like a Sparrow build that builds like Sky Sparrow, Stormbreaker, Kingsbane, and a lot more attack speed, you're going to see a lot of bonus damage you can get from Kingsbane alone. There's also like Stonebreaker, Lightning Hawk gain change, because before these items used to be based on like hitting like a target certain amount of times, but now it's based on momentum, which is when you do moving or landing basic attacks. And so what this means is that when you enter a team fight for the first time, you can immediately proc both Stonebreaker and Lightning Hawk. No longer have to attack the same opponent like 4 times. You hit them once, you get the proc Stonebreaker, which still does the chain of lightning bolts, and then for Lightning Hawk, you're gonna do your Empower basic attack on hit to do damage and slow. So if Stonebreaker still has the on killing units, you're gonna increase them, still like a stacking component, but now you don't have to like keep hitting the same minion over and over the proc. Now you have a lot more easier control of when you want to use this item. Especially when you start in a team fight that's already getting really chaotic, you can go and hit your first target and just proc these items and just kind of go hand with it. Terminus is an item that actually got changed quite a bit, because the way they changed now is that for every 10% missing health, you gain 1 additional lifesteal. So this item overall is going to be a lot better lifesteal statistic. And then when you pair this item up with Equinox, you can have an ADC that's like super sustaining and super hard to kill. This item is actually going to be really interesting to build on this more sustained kind of ADC builds going forward. Trying to think, there's one other item that I missed, because I definitely was just going on and on. Oh yeah, one last thing I guess I'll mention is Sky Splitter has lifesteal on it, because so now again, like you can stack Sky Splitter lifesteal with Terminus lifesteal, with the healing component, shield component on Equinox. You have lifesteal on here, so you can go for a build that can easily get above 30% lifesteal, and we have a full late game AC build with 30% lifesteal. You're gonna heal a lot on your basic attack. So for the spicy stuff, that ACs we're gonna be seeing right here as well. But yeah, that's gonna be about it for me, just kind of breaking down these items. I did want this to be a little bit on the shorter side, but I end up just kind of going on and on and on, because some of these items has a lot of implications, a lot of stuff we can talk about. I can even go even further, because I even talk about all the item changes necessarily like in front of them, right? But even me just covering just the notable item reworks or new items was enough to make this a longer segment than anticipated. And too much to the point that I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, so I'm gonna cut this off right here, and it's gonna be a whooping like longer item video that I think it's gonna do more than enough help for you guys to get a good understanding of these items and what they mean going forward, so you guys can start cooking up, crafting some builds right now if you want. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If not already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single beat by yours truly. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope you guys are excited as I am for the Tuesday patch. Peace.